This here what they've been waiting on. Zap. Getting what they want.
This shit separate the man from the mice, the pit from the poodle. Bag boys.
Stepped on the work, left Giuseppe footprints on it. Cookie shaped form on the zips, put a rinse on it. So much grass on the floor, could put a fence on it. Niggas owe me money, can't depend on it. Dope so good, put a 10 on it. 9-0 soft for the fin, trying to win, I recommend we put a blend on it. Zap a cold case, I want revenge on it. Bubble eyed beans, smoke gray, with fluorescent light lens on it. Took my prison time on the chin, homie. Broke the skin on my shin, we just rinse it out with gin. Put a cleanse on it. Now my soul got sin on it. Real life bleeding through the pen. It's about money, I want in on it. I ain't gonna pretend like every start don't have an end on it. Human heroin, no syringe, homie. Zap so sorry, fuck a friend, Tony. Right now it's about where you at. I don't give a fuck where you been, homie.
No motherfucking time to play. We out here. You know what I'm saying? We been here. It wasn't been did this shit, man, from the beginning, man. You fool ass niggas, man. The fuck out the way and get ran over, man. Real guap shit, man. You know what I'm saying? That's so. Flesh to my flesh, nigga. We out here, nigga. Show these niggas how to do this shit, nigga. Shit never gonna stop, nigga. Huh? Shit never gonna stop.
And I ain't say I was the king, boy, the streets did. I was trying to get the Nicki before Meek did. I was trying to get the Kim before Ye got her. But I've been locked down the past 3 years. Guilty for being real. OGs who money been filthy since we was little. Cold-blooded, that powder turn milky, that whip appeal. I'm Emmett Till, fuck Lieutenant Wilkie, we in the field now.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Welcome back to Atlanta Cast Network presents Jon Doe Podcast. And without further ado, we're going to get right to it. I bring to you your host, Jon Doe.
Spell like it's cold right now. Introduction like that, like this yo show. How about it? Hey, welcome back, everybody. Who here for the first time, welcome. And name of the show is Jon Doe. You can put it on the floor. You see the number on the screen. You got the option. Text in whatever you want to. And I want to leave this conversation as open as possible. Of course, that's my whole point. The name of the show is Jon Doe. So anything that comes to mind, make it worth my time. And with that being said, though, I did have a topic in mind. I want to talk about stereotypes if need be, because stereotypes are so real, especially in today's age and sensitive times. You'd think we'd be past the point of judging books by the cover, but somehow we can't seem to avoid it. And if you want to ask me a question about it, come on, bring it on. Hey, look, I'm going to give anybody else out there that got something that they want to bring to mind, maybe from a previous show or however that goes, make sure you subscribe. And Atlanta Cast Network. You see what I'm saying? It's too easy. That's ACN, Atlanta Cast Network. Thank y'all for putting this together for me. And look, we're talking about these stereotypes. Again, some of the stuff that I bring to this cast, some cases they stem from recent conversations or things that I see have been directly affecting us, not just from a community-based standpoint, not just from because I said so type of standpoint or because I think so. This is response from people that are actually a part of my life and some of the notions that they present. So I'm like, hey, why not speak up on it? And maybe we could tear down some of these, tear down some of these invisible walls is what I like to call them, because a lot of us have been thinking the same way for so doggone long. We get used to thinking that, hey, this is the way I always done it, or this is the way I always thought things out, like it's the end all be all, which is ultimately one of the most limiting things we can do, even for myself, and that's from me to you. Remember, this show ain't even about me. You see what I'm saying? I'm just hosting and holding it down and using this as an opportunity to be able to peel back some of these layers of this life layers of life's onion, so to speak. You see, so we could keep it on that curve because I'm looking forward to learning from you all, just like you all can learn from me. We can learn together, we can grow together. That way, we could do better. You did. So, when it comes to stereotypes, of course, it's obvious the kind of complexion that I share. So, with that, of course, we know, well, at least some of us don't know, the type of stereotypes come with just being a dark skinned man, or being a male, or being a female, and things like that. I mean, there's so many different levels of what boil down to being just basically judgmental, that branch off into being prejudiced, that literally reflect levels of ignorance. It's like a spell that we're all under to some degree or another, you know. And as soon as we think we had it all figured out to some degree, we figure out there's another stereotype right around the corner waiting on me. You know what I mean? You remember back in the days when we had the baggy t-shirt type
All right, we got our
of,
first caller, John Doe. Hang on 1 second.
come on,
Call
come on.
from
Jay Rigger.
Some degree or another. Jay River. What's up? What you
All right, we got our first caller, John Doe. Hang on 1 second. All right, caller,
call
you got
from
the YouTube in the background.
What's up?
All right, we got our first caller, John Doe. Hang on 1 second. All right, caller,
call
you got.
from
Hold on. YouTube in the background. Caller, you got YouTube in the background. Turn YouTube off in the background.
You said I got what in the background?
Do you have the YouTube show in the background, caller? It's like calling the radio. YouTube in the background. Turn YouTube off in the background.
You said I got what in the background?
Do you have the YouTube show in the background, caller? It's like calling the radio.
Yeah, I had the show.
There we go. Thank you, caller. What's your name?
What's up?
Oh, this is Jay Rigger, man.
All right, you live on the
Okay.
Ask
What's
Jon
going
Doe
on
podcast.
Jay
What
River?
question do you have for Jon Doe?
I want them to address stereotypes that's associated with us pimps.
Ooh.
Hmm. Well,
All right, Jon Doe, here you go.
you know, in this perfect world, when it comes to, I guess, whatever you call pimping or any other business, you will see, when it comes to stereotypes, from some that I can see that stand out on top of, again, the fashion. People think that uh, pimps wear meats and fur coats and pink and stuff like that, which is, such a wavy line. That brings me off into stereotypes. And if you haven't been in tune with a couple shows before, I address prostitution and some of the stuff that looks like, again, because when it comes to stereotypes, I think prostitutes is just women standing on a corner, saying trying to get a coin from something they got going, and that ain't necessarily the case, you know what I'm saying? And there's a lot of people, a lot of women out here that's trading that cooch for some purses and shoes and stuff like that, and they don't realize that that's basically the same thing as prostitution. You know what I mean? If you exchanging intimacy for any type of goods, for exchange for your services, it's the same thing. So again, when it come to what is it? I think Brother Rigger was talking about stereotypes when they come to pimps. You know what I'm saying? It's bigger than fur hats and Cadillacs. You know what I mean? From what I've grown to learn about this game and seeing that, when it comes to this pimping thing, you know what I mean? They come to realize that, from what I've learned, that a lot of these women that are going and participating is also a level of by choice too. It's not by force, you know what I mean? And so don't think that it's some guy in the background just beating them up and stuff like that too. You know what I mean? I mean, I can't say in some situations that may be the situation, but realistically, we look at all these different extremes and qualities of life, you know what I'm saying, from the topic that's just been brought up to realizing that in the end we all people, you know what I mean, and we all got a lane to travel on this road of life. And without understanding somebody's background for the foreground, if you will, it's easy to stereotype and just put people in a box. Well, because this person has a lot of women in his life, he must be a pimp. That's so far from the case. You know what I'm saying? Or we see a woman out here that's like, oh, she's been involved with a bunch of different men. She must be a prostitute or a hoe. That ain't necessarily making the case. So that's why stereotypes is in place. You know what I mean? It's being able to look past the surface. You know what I mean? And being able to look at things from a different lens, if you can. Is the reason why stereotypes is even subject. You see, because we want to be able to realize that, hey, man, just because he's an old person doesn't mean that he's slow. You know what I'm saying? Or we dealing with young people in society today. We think they don't know nothing. You know what I mean? So we tend to turn off our listening ear and we deal with them from the stereotypical lens, and it's unfair, you know, and it's really accelerating levels of turbulence, if you can. You know, right now in today's time when we need to be coming together more and more and really being able to break down these barriers that we had established or we put in place because it satisfied our version of reality that we wanted to entertain for that moment in time. So we calling it normal. You know what I mean? We normalize these stereotypes. You know, some of these stereotypes is true though. That's one of my favorite things about this. You know, say black people love chicken. Yeah, we kind of do. Be a funeral, somebody die, somebody graduate, or whatever we do, somebody gonna bring some damn chicken. And that's just one of the stereotypes.
Does,
Just
does that answer your question, caller?
that is what
Watermelon.
we do. What you say?
So yeah, black people, we still love watermelon too.
Right? Yeah, you know what I mean. It's a thing. But what you got to say about stereotypes, brother man? What you got on mind?
Well, I
What's
feel
your
like that, stereotypes actually been instilled from, time on just because it stimulates from a lot of small minds, and I think that the more that we open up our brain, that we'll recognize that, people are more than, the first little dimension that they offer or that they give us. So I just know that, stereotypes, often fall short. So I don't really play into them. I know the world do mostly.
Certainly, certainly. That's a sign of a strong brain right there. You know, because a lot of these stereotypes that most people don't realize that they fall into, it's been normalized to such a degree, they will actually deny the fact that they are stereotypical in that sense. You know, typically stereotypical for real. We talking about stereotypes, we ain't talking about Alpine. You know what I mean? This is the things that are on our mind, y'all. So here it is, you know, right now, in today's time again. Can you think
Thank you,
of
caller.
any?
Thank you, caller.
Yeah, thank you, caller, for sure, for sure. Can anybody else out there think of any stereotypes for me that are directly affecting us? You know what I mean? Like us, I'm talking about beyond the brown skin. I mean, us in this world. Like we think that because we watching the news that we're getting the truth is a version of a stereotype. Right, and that's your business. You know what I mean? And which is the point, though. You know, it's okay to hate your watermelon. Some people will say, "Oh, well, I thought all black people like watermelon." Well, that's when you're gonna wake up today and realize that, damn, you were being pretty much stereotypical, prejudiced, judgmental. But it's fair though. You know what I mean? Because hey, for those who do like watermelon, you know, is understanding that yeah, even though we may fit that stereotype, that don't mean it defines us either. And that's something when it comes to stereotypes, no matter how hard we try to avoid them like a crack on the sidewalk, we all gonna run into them on this walk. So hey, if you do play into stereotypes, if you project in stereotypes, or if you fall victim, if you can, of a stereotype or two, you know what I mean? At this point, being able to discuss it to take into consideration what we're gonna do is really where we at in this world, you know. Hey, because it's too easy to see a bunch of young black men standing around for whatever reason, if they should be or not. Well, that's so subjective. You know, it's easy to call them a gang, or they looking like they up to no good. You know what I mean? I mean, just to think how many levels of stereotypes have have attributed to every version of crime across the board. You know what I mean? I mean, all Spanish people ain't thieves and stuff like that. I mean, we got to wake up, y'all. It's 2022, and we got way, way stronger things to do, you know. And it's not your fault that the people who set you off on this path for life armed you with these misleading notions that could be rooted in stereotypical belief systems. But it's up to you, the individual, to really comb through yourself and own responsibility for these notions. You see, now in some cases, stereotypes very well could kind of save your life. You know what I mean? To say some say, hey, if it walk like a duck, it talk like a duck, it ain't a dog. You know, clearly it's a duck. That's beyond stereotypical. That's you feel me? So now we looking like if I see a woman out there in a short skirt, is she fast? Well, she very well may be, you know, and that's where stereotypes sometimes come to be. A lot of times that branch off in there, that's how she was feeling today. But it ain't okay to label anybody based on your belief systems in any way or another. You know, we got any other questions or calls out there? Y'all make it worth my time while we on this line. The
Ask
name of
John
the
Doe,
show is Ask John Doe.
770-852-0569. Ask John
Yeah.
Doe.
This is not John Doe Run Off at the Mouth show. It can be if that's the way you want it to go, y'all. But bring it to me. We're not stuck on stereotypes either for the listeners and viewers
You
out there,
also can
whatever
put
that
your
looks like.
questions in the chat. Put your questions
Yeah,
in the chat
yeah.
or call John Doe at
Anything under the sun for you to get it.
770-852-0569.
Anything under the sun you get it. Because the whole point of this experience is, again, y'all, for you to be able to gain the confidence, if you can, to have that conversation if you need to with whoever you need to have that conversation with about whatever it is that's on the flow. And hey, we could bring it to that point in the road to where some would say we agree to disagree, but we got to keep going too. And we can't stay hung up on these things that show up as differences and things that lead us to be even more divided based on these belief systems that ain't serving us no way. You know, I came in contact with a comment that was said about politics. So I can't remember what the celebrity person name was at this time. He said, if you're not voting blue, you're not black. That can't be no more warped and unnecessary type of stereotype than I could ever imagine. If y'all still with me, if you not voting blue, you not black. That is the biggest bag of bull that you could be under the impression of, because a lot of these blue laws really ain't even for y'all. Just so you know, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, we hung up on the surface level aspect of things. I mean, being a Democrat don't mean you black, or being because you black African American means you supposed to vote Democrat. Man, pay attention to these voting laws and stuff like that that's in the balance right now. A lot of this stuff is being pushed by the Democratic narrative, and it is not in your favor. So they mean to tell me if you're not voting blue, you're not black enough to vote your rights away. Pay attention to what's being put on the table, y'all, and don't fall into that trap. No more than we already in it. I mean, a lot of us can feel so deep off in it again. We under these normalized belief systems that because I've been thinking like this so long, and everybody around me to the left and right think like this too. That's what makes it true. And you can't be any more confused if you think you can go forward like that, y'all. You know, it's time to really challenge these belief systems that's been put into play, and it's playing you, it's playing us. You know, we want to have level-minded, grounded conversations out here. We end up confusing each other by the time we get done attempting to communicate because of things like stereotypes. You know, so anything you got out there, Mister? What you think about the world of stereotypical belief systems or
Nah, it's
stereotypes?
full of them, to say the least. It's definitely full of them.
Yeah.
I mean,
Any stand
it
out to
goes
you?
back. I mean, it goes back to those saying you can't judge a book by its cover. Like a lot of times we deal with people in the service industry and restaurant industry, and you
Yeah.
think one way and it's totally different. You know, you can't judge a person by what they drive or anything these days.
Right. Right.
Specifically now, because I mean, somebody could be totally different.
Yeah. Yeah. One of my
How we gonna?
favorite, especially amongst black people. You know, I got a voice when it comes to what is it?
Why do most stereotype Scorpios as mean? I guess the sign Scorpios.
Oh, why they do? Because they don't know no better. You know what I mean? And somebody that messed up. I believe some of these stereotypes, like most urban legends, if you can, they might have started off with some bit of truth. You know what I mean? Because Scorpios, from what I understand, at least they've been known to have these sharp edges that it's a line that if you know, say if you cross it one time, most people don't make it back. You know what I mean? And that's just part of the underlying truth when it comes to most signs if you can, especially when it comes to Scorpios. You get stung, you're done. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, somebody messed it up for everybody. Like all Scorpios mean. So what happened? They started treating Scorpios mean, and they got stung even more. So that stereotype might be true. Whenever you get,
I don't follow that sign stuff, so I have no idea. They always saying that this sign does this and this sign does that, or this sign ain't for this
yeah.
sign and all.
That's different versions of stereotypes. I mean, in the end, we have the evolved and underdeveloped aspect or extremes of all these signs. And I believe the closer we get to the core and the more we understand who we are as people and creatures of this force, it's pretty much so much different. It's the same. What's that say? Could you read that for me?
Help I'm Addicted says we have to be careful of the image we put out, like a group of young black men in polo shirts and khaki pants versus a bunch of young men smoking and all they clothes too big, pants sagging, and they butts, I'm guessing, hanging out. Oh yeah, hanging out.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, with that type of reality that goes off into, we look at it in the corporate world, if you will. I'm gonna make reference to that. Everybody in the suits and ties aren't necessarily that clean cut guy that you think they are either. They're some of the biggest junkies and abusers out here of every type. You know what I mean? So just because you see a person in a suit and tie don't mean he's Mr. Nice Guy no more than that person in the baggy pants. So is a thug or whatever. It's like I know plenty of people that got on all the jewelry, that's wearing all the gold, riding rims or what have you, and they broke as hell. That don't mean they rich or anything along those lines. You know what I mean? Plenty of people got guns, it's not gonna shoot, and all that type of stuff. But challenging these stereotypes is when you're gonna find out what's really real or not. You know what I mean? Don't play that game if you want to. You run up on that person in the baggy pants thinking, "Oh, they ain't no real gang, get your ass whooped." Don't say you was watching this show and John Doe said so. You see what I'm saying?
Mm.
So
Mm.
just be realistic out here too, y'all. So again, man, hey, put me on a polo shirt. We could take on many different faces. And people really do treat you different based on how you dress too, and that's part of the actual factuals.
Mm.
So a lot of these stereotypes that we may be under this spell of from the urban based aspect, we have the opportunity to change this narrative if you can, that all black people are XYZ or whatever that is. I say we start off an all white button up campaign. You know what I mean? Hey, suits and ties for all my guys. You know what I mean? And I bet you that'll cut down half this crap that we dealing with from the social stigma type of standpoint.
The
Because
hair too is very stereotypical,
it is. It
from
is.
the
Like, oh,
braids
people
and the
with
new
dreads don't
haircuts.
smoke
Yeah,
weed. You know what I
right.
mean? Just because you got locks don't mean you got some weed in your pocket or something like that. I mean, come on, y'all. Let's be for real. Even though that's a good indicator that you might get some fire, don't mean that it's always true either. Yeah, man. You gotta have fun with this stuff too, y'all, because at the end of the day, everything's gonna be okay. And I can't afford to let myself nor allow y'all to get on your own damn nerves about surface driven realities. It ain't sustainable, y'all. So hey man, keep asking the questions, keep these conversations open amongst yourselves and each other.
Okay. What do you think about shared stereotypes, aka gender and age, versus variable stereotypes, race, ethnicity, religion? Which one is worse, or are they both bad?
Yeah, good or bad is so subjective. It's like let's speak upon age and gender. That's like old Asian women can't drive that good. Or old people, period. You know what I mean? And there's some truth to that. You know what I mean? But that ain't across the board. So when it comes to these stereotypes, you see that old man on the road, it's like, oh shoot, watch out. You know what I mean? Sometimes, hey, that might help you more than it'd be like, oh man, look, there's this old person on the road. There's nothing to be afraid of. You guys get ran over. You knew better. You know what I mean? So somewhere in there, it's just like a beautiful contradiction that is always going to be relevant within reason or to some degree, and whatever that reason is, it's gonna be a case by case scenario, y'all.
All right, got another caller coming in.
Case by
Hold
case, always. What's going on?
Call from
Lot.
on. All right. Please have
Yeah,
YouTube off in the background. Caller, you're live with Ask John Doe. What's your name?
Lot.
All right, Lot. What's your question for John Doe?
come on.
I got a question for you, my nigga.
Go ahead.
Lord,
Go ahead, Lot.
one fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish. What color is your orange fish?
Gay. Yeah. Thank you for your time, man. You know, look. So let's talk about stereotypes. See, we want to say that when people introduce notions like that, we want to be like, is this person on drugs? Or no, are we just being judgmental? You know what I'm saying? 101, but that was fun. You know what I'm saying? What color is the orange fish? Yeah, man. I think that's one for the comment section. Y'all tell me what color the orange fish is.
That was
So,
funny.
yeah, I like it, man. I mean, this is the entertainment business, y'all. You know what I mean? This is it just anything goes. Ask Jon Doe. You know what I mean? Come on,
Before
man.
it's gonna say life is like a box of chocolates, you never know what you're
Yeah,
gonna get.
just get it. That's what come with it. You know what I mean? And I appreciate the brothers for doing that. And thank
770-852-0569.
y'all
Keep
for
it
y'all
going.
participation because this is what it's for. You know what I mean? This is more room to explore. I don't think I finished answering that question either. You know, when it come to good or bad, I think it was a
Oh,
really, really significant question was brought up about
yeah,
which
go ahead.
one is worse. What was that?
I said, yeah, go ahead.
Oh
I put it
yeah,
back on the screen.
variable stereotypes, race, ethnicity, and religion. Now, that's what I wanted to touch on. Religion. Everybody go to church. Excuse me. Everybody like the stereotype. Oh, you wearing a cross, you must be of the cloth. No, you know what I mean. It's like it's obvious at this point. We can confidently dismantle these stereotypes that everybody who rocking with any type of religious regime are operating in the body or the spirit, if you will, which is totally false. So we all know by now that wearing the biggest hat sitting in the front row don't mean you getting into heaven. You know what I mean? You know, with these stereotypes, like what allow us socially and culturally to continue to play into this realm as if it's satisfying anything is what bring me to mention stereotypes and turn it into a topic so we could take this stuff home to our folks and when we get off this live thing and be like, damn, you're being stereotypical. We get to look at it a way and like you realize that in ways that you may be being stereotypical. It challenged me to look at myself, some of these stereotype type of belief systems that I done came up with. You know what I mean? Trying to comb through some right now while I'm sharing this with y'all because I'm sure there's some and they may show up in the most uh in the most less than desirable time I could say, times where it's not my favor. You know what I mean? We had this stereotype, you can't trust the police until your life is in danger. You gonna call 911 before you call Tyrone or whoever else got anything going on. You know what I mean? So it's like that beautiful contradiction is always around us, y'all. We're gonna always disagree to some extreme or another. A lot of these notions is true, no matter what we going through, but it still fall under being a stereotype. It's like, man, how can we avoid it versus how can we work with it? You know what I mean? Is it a way that we can find ourselves in position collectively to, I could say, be able to identify these stereotypes responsibly if you can, which I don't think that's a safe way to even go about it all because it can be a really messy road realistically. So it's like, man, we know that we are submerged in stereotypes. The legal system is fueled by them. You know what I mean? Systematic racism is real across the board, and it's colorless and it's ageless. You know, to to many extremes that stereotypes actually apply. What are the socially acceptable stereotypes that we can come up with? You know what I mean? If there's any. Holler at me if you think you understand where I'm coming from. We call them socially acceptable stereotypes. What does that say?
If if we're so opposed to stereotypes, why do people get mad at cultural appropriation?
Hmm. Why people get mad at it? Because I can't speak for all people responsibly. I believe people get mad at it because they may be caught off guard by it. You know what I mean? We sometimes take offense as people from the human element to be presented with something in a way that we didn't see it like. You know what I mean? At a time that we wasn't prepared to. You know what I mean? Now, if I went outside knowing I was about to be judged by my skin color today, I might have went about my day a different way. But when we presented with these stereotypes, like I was minding my business in a grocery store line type scenario, and somebody made a comment about the shirt that I was wearing, you wearing FUBU, so that must mean you, whatever. You dig what I'm saying? To where it's hard to say. You know what I mean? It's going to be a way we think. Why is this so difficult? I think that's at the appetite of the person, because
Yeah,
difficult
I think they were.
things.
I think they were trying to say that as far as the culture appropriation point was, we do things like hip hop and stuff like that, and then maybe white people take what we do, make it of their own, and then it's stereotyped as something different, like comedy.
Yeah.
When we do it, we're considered thugs or gangsters and
Hmm.
all that. But then they take it and then they make money off of it and profit off of it and take
Right.
what we do and it's stereotyped in a totally different way.
How about that? I like that. That's responsible. And thank you for adding that extra layer to these conversations. Again, people, that's a beautiful example of why we having these discussions. Because I'm gonna leave you with some game on your brain before we hang up from this thing. And I can't do this alone. So I'm glad we got participants to keep this thing strong. So yeah, why? Because it speaks for itself. I think we haven't found a way to capitalize and monetize off of our own stereotypes at this point. Why we keep letting the sand slip through our hand. If anything, I believe having being able to make fun of this stuff if you can kind of will help lighten the load ultimately when it comes to these what could be devastating notions revolving around stereotypes. Collateral damage is real too, y'all. you know. So hey man, just being as alert as we can, as honest as we can about how these stereotypes affect us interpersonally and abroad. I mean, we on the right track to digging ourselves out of this invisible hole mentally, in that sense, at least. Just being for real about this stuff. There's really nothing that we have left that should be offensive to close to anybody, in this sense, when it comes to the jokes revolving around stereotypes or the comments or the approach to dealing with people in a stereotypical fashion, man. I mean, we are creatures of this thing, and none of us have it any more figured out than the next. This ain't John Doe talking through his crystal ball on y'all. You know what I mean? Hey, I come from flesh and bones too. So hey, let's make this stuff make sense for each other. And I appreciate the questions. I appreciate the comments. And hey, look, let's keep this thing sharp for each other. Phone number 770-852-0569. Give me a call and make it worth my time, y'all. Stereotypes, man. I mean, I believe young people can't cook that good. Is that a stereotype? Am I being judgmental? Yeah, but there's some truth to it. I mean, I trust grandma's cooking before you know what I'm saying? Before I trust somebody I know ain't ready to kill it with that skillet, they still feeling their way around that knife drawer. You know what I mean? Grandma know what to do. So I'm like, yeah, I mean, I go that way before anything. Could that be a stereotype? Possibly. But hey, I know some truth to that too. With experience, I mean, you kind of got to judge that book by the cover sometimes. If the grill man ain't wearing the magic sandals, you got questions, right? Is that a stereotype or is there some truth to that? It's a real question to ask. You know, but I think in the end result, whatever the answers is to these questions, is how we manage it and handle it gracefully, y'all. Don't let these stereotypes be that weak thread that got us broken up. You know what I mean? Don't let these stereotypes be that what could be thin line to make it even wider.
Help I'm
What
Addicted says, what age do you consider young?
young, I would say 18 and under. That's what I consider because we all young and under the sun. We really are. But I'm saying, young folks, if you 18 and under talking about I'm cooking dinner, I got questions. You know, yeah, there's some savvy ones out there. Truly. You know what I'm saying? We all know that. Yeah, man. Everybody ain't no sucker behind this though. But if hey, we all gotta get our weight in the game somehow or another. But I think that's a perfect example to go off into being supportive and not discouraging one another based on these stereotypes too. You know, of course, being a black man, of course, I'm getting up in the latter of the age thing. I ain't got my training wheels on in this game. I'm being used at being underestimated. You know what I mean? A lot of people have no idea of my background and abilities and capabilities. Sometimes I don't even know my full extent of my power for real till I get to waving my magic wand. But truth of the matter is, you know, when you're dealing with people who haven't had the most pleasant experiences or the most helpful experiences based on these surface level approaches to reality, hey, we kind of, at least being able to understand how they become so stereo blind, if you can. I think I just made that up, stereo blind. So blind by the fact that these stereotypes have actually taken the wheel and, is driving them in a way. Don't let these stereotypes control you. No matter how much you may play into them, or no matter how much you need to learn about yourself in that sense, don't let don't let that habit of judging the book by that cover have you blindfolded out here, me. Because trust me, real love knows no color. For real, it has no age limit. It has no capacity, y'all. And don't think because a person's wearing a baggy shirt or a person's wearing a suit that you can't be helped or you can be helped in either way. You know what I mean? Don't think because a person is wearing a bunch of hearts on their shirt that they actually are a loving person or however that goes.
Yeah,
There's
or
maybe
or or
some
if somebody is attractive, like people think attractive
right.
people are better people, but they're not.
Yes.
They're just more
Nah, see,
attractive.
that if that, and it make us question what we find in attraction. That surface level. That's basically what it boils down to. It's a level of being shallow versus a level of being what some would consider deep. The closer we get to the core, where things are simpler, it's considered depth. What time we peel back all this bull crap, we wash off the makeup and we take off these clothes and we remove all these stereotypes. Now, who are we? That's where I want to meet us at the end of these discussions, even in the beginning of these discussions. You see,
But
and
are certain stereotypes like accepted over others? Like, would you
accepted
rather a
over
fat person cook you food or a skinny person? You know what
preference
I'm
and
saying? Is that
stereotype.
an
It
acceptable
really
stereotype?
does. And it's something for that to actually be a stereotype that I would trust a fat chef over a skinny chef. Is
So
it
that's an
fair?
acceptable stereotype.
No. Is it acceptable? Probably not. But if it's my preference at a glance and I had to look like, yep, I'm going with Buddy right there. Then. Yeah, 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 her, whatever, whoever that looks like. You know what I'm saying? That's just a thing. If it was a side by side comparison, I'd probably go with the heftier, shaftier because they looking like they know what
They
they
also
doing.
say if your elbows are ashy, you can cook.
That's what they said. That's
uh,
another. That's like in response to the grilling sandals. You know what I mean? If homie ain't got them leathers and them Jesus number threes on, then they clearly they may
you
not
can't
know
get
what
on the
they
grill.
doing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know what I'm saying? But what do you do? Everybody with chef hat and a spatula ain't a cook. You know,
Hmm.
everybody who reaching their hand out to help.
Oh
You
yeah, and
know.
that's huge when it comes to like the Black Lives Matter movement. When these
Yeah,
young boys get pulled over by the police, they get
yeah.
stereotyped. I mean,
Oh
immediately.
man, what the
Based
cars
on
that we
what you
drive. You know
yep.
what I mean? It's so many different levels of that it shows us in this space at least. You would think it can show us in this space and time and place that we have the power to dismantle all of that. It may go against some of our comfort zone. Be like, man, but I like my mini skirt, she might say. And you know what I'm saying? And some of the fellas might be like, but I always wear my shirt this bag. Yeah, and that's that shirt that's getting you pulled over and shot too. You know what I mean? Should you have to change your dress code? No. But at the same time, no, we have the change opportunity to really paint over this work scenario and really change this role. You know,
Hmm.
the power is ours collectively and individually. You know what I mean? You can put in all the work you want to put a wig on a pig. That ain't gonna change the fact of the things. You get what I'm saying? So hey, stereotypes will be, y'all. I mean, that's just something that we won't be able to avoid for the foreseeable near future too. Because some of us are so ingrained in that way of thinking that it'll probably take death to be free from these walls that we've put up in front of ourselves on behalf of each other. You know, sometimes stereotypes save lives, man. Look, if I see that if I see that Confederate flag flying, it's a good chance that, you know what I'm saying, some racially driven notions may be holding the bottom of that pole. But I also have been proven wrong too. You know what I mean, in that sense too. So that's kind of the leverage that I'm speaking from when it comes to challenging these stereotypes. You know, should we be a sucker by our alternate belief systems? No. But if that's, if being stereotypical what makes you feel safe in your corner of the world, that's your business. You know what I mean?
All right, got a couple more questions.
Yeah.
Skip says, I had a guy at the AT&T store today tell me that he feels anyone who dates outside their race has self-esteem issues. What do you think?
Man. Now, self-esteem and dating outside of your race, that's a stretch. And I'm under the impression, I could be wrong, but just to use as an example. So if a black woman dating a white man or any other race, whatever, I don't even have to use black and white, but you get what I'm saying. To say self-esteem issues, that's more ignorant than stereotypical, if anything, for real. That's just pure ignorance, because shit, I mean, beauty knows no skin color. It really doesn't. You know what I mean? Love knows no race. And that's just the truth. And for self-esteem to be associated to, nah, that's a stretch. What would be a self-esteem issue if or self-esteem related if somebody was dating outside of their race or even within their race and they were in abusive type of circumstances and didn't believe that they deserved anything better or something like that, then yeah, of course, yeah, self-esteem could very well be a factor, but color alone, nah, that's pretty shallow. That's realistically shallow.
So how do we overcome negative stereotypes?
To overcome negative stereotypes is to be able to take an honest look collectively at what the negative ones are. What is a negative stereotype versus a positive, and that is a line that is never going to be still. It's such an it's such an opinion based realm to where none of us are gonna collectively agree on what a positive versus a negative stereotype is when stereotypes across the board can be hurtful, but they're not going away. So, what can we do to overcome them? I think it's come from being responsibly respectful. You know, it's being able to cultivate the level of respect that's that can complement all of us involved. Like, hey, look, you got on that baggy shirt, it's a good chance you may have your pistol. I respect that. You know what I'm saying? You got on your suit and tie, you may be a junkie. Cool. You know what I mean? But it's treating each other with a level of compassion from one human being to another that keep us from stepping on each other. That could very well be the first step towards being responsibly under control to controlling these stereotypes is called respect, y'all. Not just our self respect, but our collective respect. You know what I mean? Is respecting the fact that, you know what, everybody that's fat, or excuse me for using that word if you're offended by that, but fuck that. This is real life. So it's like you could call it what you want to, but just respect the fact that this is how that person thinks or feels. That don't make this person any more foolish or intelligent because this is what it's going to be. People are going to say things. People are going to come up with assumptions or impressions of all types. But being able to not let that be the end at the snap of a finger like that within reason. You know what I mean? Of course, that's a case by case scenario. It's always going to change. It's always going to be different. But we have to negotiate responsibly on how we handle that and learn that at least we don't have to hate in each other's path and do things along those lines because you don't agree with what the stereotype belief system that I'm operating under is, or I may not understand nothing of what you're talking about based on your stereotype belief system. So, hey man, just understand that things are what they are, and if we can find that happy road to really be supportive and love each other and help be able to take on these alternative realities, we're gonna see that we're all right in our own light. And that's just the truth. No matter how wrong we are, it can be rooted in that inner truth that if we take a couple steps back and lean our head to the left a little bit, be like, yeah, I see where you're coming from. Don't say I agree. I'm sure a lot of y'all out there probably go through that shit with me. But that's why we having this show, so we can put it all on the floor. So we can work it out with each other, for each other, because I don't want nobody to get up off this line thinking that they got it all figured out on their mind, because we got a lot of growing to do as a society, from gender perspectives to just like all these politically driven notions that's being put on the floor. It's like, come on, y'all. If we stop having these discussions now, we are accelerating the end of whatever we thought we wanted to begin. And that's just the truth. They said closed mouth don't get fed. Shoot, man, we be quiet now. The society's head is gone. For real. So let's have these conversations that show up as awkward and taboo. We may think we have it all figured out. We all may think we know why the sky is blue, but I'm sure there's some underlying sciences to that. You end up having a conversation with a brain like mine, like, damn, I never looked at it like that before. And even if you can't look at it like that before, that don't mean that's the end of the discussion, because there's still more room to explore. Let's not be so quick to unplug from things that we don't necessarily agree with or get, because there's great power in understanding these opposite points of views, if you will. You know what I mean? It's like so many people think because you black, you should be voting blue, and don't even understand what the Republican Party is representing or do, or vice versa. You know what I mean? We blinded by colors. Like that could bring me back to the gang conversation I was having, or we had that show about. For y'all don't know, we had a conversation brought up gangs and prostitution. They have nothing to do with each other, but they kind of do. Shit, don't nobody care. Let's talk about it anyways to make it fair. You know what I mean? So where just because you saying you got on a red Republican shirt or a blue Democratic shirt, for y'all they know that's how these colors are divided. That's the same thing as gangbanging, man. And you don't even know what that shit represent. Just because you black mean you supposed to be anything is by far one of the most foolish notions to entertain. You know what I'm saying? And chew on that later on for you to understand what even started the debate. For y'all out there, look up the history of the Democratic Party. Look up where it started. You will be surprised.
Yeah.
Look it up. Find it. It's out there waiting on you. You know what I mean? And challenge these questions for real. If you think I'm tripping, think I'm slipping, hey, let's do this research. Let's have this conversation. You know what I mean? Let's talk about it. Call me next time. Lock in this number, 770-852-0569. You got a question on your mind, put it in the chat box. Ask Jon Doe. Hell, I'm okay with saying I don't know. If I don't know the answer to one of these questions, regardless of how I may feel to think about it, that's what we need to be able to do, y'all. Let's talk about this stuff. Because what we can't do is argue. What we shouldn't do is fight. And that ain't gonna never make anything right. Because by the time we get done going back and forth with these subjective points and views, we can do nothing but get on each other's nerves, and then we're gonna discourage each other from talking. We're trying to put down these invisible walls, man. For real. And I'm down to tear it down with you one brick at a time if that's what it takes. But it all starts today, It has to start today. Again, stereotypes. Old people, you can still drive pretty good for the most part. You know what I'm saying? And a little skinny girl under 18, I know most people be thinking you can't cook that good. I know it's true to some degree, but you know what? You can learn. You can become a better cook. And it's all good. Mr. Fat Man, them ribs wasn't all that good either. You know what I'm saying? I was banking on you to come through with that plate. It wasn't even hitting like that. But
That's true.
it's okay. You know what I'm saying? We all got room to grow on this journey, Let's do this, y'all. Let's do it together to make things better. Ask Jon Doe Podcast show. Shout out to the ACN, that's the Atlanta Cast Network, and all the people in the background who got questions and ideas and stuff brewing and couldn't find the courage to hit that number. Hey, you want to pick up some other point in time, you got the number, hit the line, lock this in, share it with a friend. If you think this stuff made no sense at all whatsoever, if you think you got any insight on how to make this thing better, bring it to me, y'all, so we can do just that. Because that's where I'm at with this journey, man.
So
Real.
Follow John Doe at Real Good 247. Follow
That's
us
all,
on
man.
all social media platforms, Atlanta Cast Network.
Yeah.
Yeah. And with that being said, we're gonna play a little music. We're gonna get the hell out of here. If y'all have any more questions, put them in the chat or call the number before we hit the end button.
Yeah.
But until then, we'll see you every Wednesday at 9 p.m. The Ask
Yeah, y'all
John
stay
Doe.
solid out there. Keep your mind right so you can get this thing tight. Yeah. Peace.
All right, we'll see y'all next week.
Nines like this, times like that. 2 for 5, had them fiends in a line like this. I had to grind like that, to climb like this. Ain't too many young niggas with a mind like this. Either take it or supplement. Work for the government. We jugging to double it. Streets hot as an oven mitt. The Ark of the Covenant. Heart of a troubled man. The devil in street clothes. The power of 7 men. Zap.
We talking any nigga, brick to brick, nigga, pole to pole, nigga, house to house, nigga, car to car, nigga, add this shit up, nigga, thought this shit was a motherfucking game, nigga, Zap Soul, nigga, a living fucking flesh, nigga, a Zap, nigga, Kira, nigga, where that money at, nigga, put that money behind your nigga if you believe in it, watch shit.
Zap Soul. Yeah. UGP. The Midwest Mayor. You know. I just did 2.5 years in the joint. Got out. Only out 3 months. Took them bitches on a high speed chase, man.